Welcome back to Cigar Talk. I'm your host, Rob Jones. We got Bryant Falconer, the co-host of Cigar Talk. How you doing, brother?
Man, I'm doing good.
Awesome, man. So you just had a birthday. We want to say happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Big surprise birthday party yesterday at the Leaf.
More than a surprise.
Dude, your wife knocked a home run.
100%. I have no complaint.
And I mean, so you guys know, Bryant shows up at the Leaf. He's blindfolded. His wife's escorting him in. He has no idea where he's even at.
Man, she got me sick.
And it was so funny. Were you blindfolded in the car?
Yeah. And she was making all these turns. And I'm like, I'm getting ready to throw up. And I'm in my truck. I'm like, you gonna have to stop all these turns. She's like, no.
See, she should have had you drive and just tell you left or right.
We wouldn't have made it there.
So anyway, she had food there. She had cigars for you.
Yes.
And she had a cigar cake. It looked like a giant ashtray with the cigar on top, ashes. And anyway, after we ate half of the cake, it no longer looked like a cigar.
No, sir.
It looked like someone didn't flush the bowl.
Yep. And it just laid there.
And it was so funny because when Paul came in, he was like, what is this? And it was like, it was a cigar.
He said, it looks like a turd.
So anyway, man, tell your wife thank you. We had a great time.
I have. I continue to tell her that.
It was a nice.
It was enjoyable, man. It was an opportunity to sit down and then.
Dude, and my wife came.
Yes.
Dude, that was the biggest surprise. My wife doesn't get out much.
Yes.
And anyway.
From Miss B to B, I was like, wow. I said, it's going to snow in Abilene again.
Please no. Please God. But anyway, we had a great time.
I got water now, so.
You got water?
I got water. I got 3 5-gallon jugs still left.
Nice.
Let it rain, baby.
Hey, so pass me that bottle. Where is that bottle?
You know it's
with Larry's over here.
You know it's with
Larry. To it over there. So
he takes ownership. Look at him.
So anyway, then we hung out and we watched. We watched the Masters.
Yes.
Smoked some good cigars. Oh. I was smoking the 2014 Fine and Rare.
Yeah.
And that was a beautiful smoke.
I was smoking the Concepcion, and then I had another I can't remember what it was. It was the was it the red label or the blue ribbon or the red ribbon? I can't remember. I had a little bit too many drinks by then.
Yeah. So, yeah. But anyway, it was a great time. Yes. And then I had to come home and take a nap, so I didn't get to stay as long as some other people. But it was a great time, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I truly appreciate it. Thank you, Tiffany.
Yeah,
thank you.
Absolutely. So anyway, let's talk about what we're smoking and drinking. I'm smoking the Almafuerte from Plasencia.
I would say, did he forget?
Dude, this is a beautiful stick.
I told you earlier.
You know what? I liked these before, but now I'm loving it.
That wrapper looked like somebody had slapped a cow and just slit him. That looked straight like leather, man. I was like,
left
look
it
at
out in
this
the sun for like 6 years.
Look at it, man. That was beautiful.
Yeah,
it was
really
beautiful.
Is.
As I say, was because he smoked it down. He in the second, third now, and it is.
Anyway, and then what are we drinking?
Oh, Scott, baby.
Old Scout from Smooth Ambler. Man, I'm a big fan.
That was a gift from you.
You're very welcome.
Gift from you.
You know, it's funny because I gave that to him, and I was like, you are going to bring that to the shed, right?
And then I was like, yeah, go ahead and take it. And then Larry's like, you might want to think about it. I was like, oh, yeah. Nah, I'll bring it over.
And he did. So anyway, yeah.
I'm smoking a McAuliffe Sumatra.
That's a good looking stick too, man. That's a good looking stick. And you know
how I feel about Sumatras.
I know you do. And I'm surprised though that you're smoking that ring gauge. I figured, which ring gauge do you prefer on the Sumatra?
Not this one, but Jay gave it to me as a surprise. I went and asked for a surprise pack, and it was in there. This is actually the last one of it because it was like 10 sticks in there. Correction, it was 26. I got 20 sticks. And I smoked every last one of them, and I was like, hey, I still got the Sumatra in there. And I went in and I poured it out. So I'm going to smoke that on the show tonight. But I'm loving it, man. It's different because I never smoked this ring gauge
you
before.
Get some more of that flavor than you do on the other side.
Yes, yes.
Well, cool, man. Let's talk about the Light 'em Up crew. The Light 'em Up crew. You guys support the show. You make it possible every week, and we have a amazing community. I mean, dude, we had a Herf Saturday night that was so much fun, and many of the Patreons were in there, and we were all just chatting it up, having a good time, smoking cigars. And anyway, we just want to say thank you to the guys that are in the Patreon. If you're interested in joining that team and supporting the show, look down in the show notes. You click on the link, and several different tiers. We talked about last week what all of them are. You can read it for yourself. I don't need to, line by line every week. So anyway, then let's talk about our sponsors right quick. We have great sponsors.
Great.
We have, first of all, we have Case Elegance.
Talk about it.
And let me tell you something. These guys make some awesome humidors. They're beautiful. They're coming out with some new series that we're going to be talking about real soon. We're going to get one and do a review on it.
Yes, sir.
But anyway, what they do is they make badass man stuff. Whether it be humidors, cigar accessories, a watch box case that holds multiple watches, a leather tote.
He said tote again.
And, I mean, they just make badass man stuff.
Yes, sir.
And if you buy anything, look down in the show notes and you'll see their web address. But if you buy anything from them and use the code Cigar Talk, they will monogram it for free. So anyway, go check them out. And then next, we've got Viva
La Vida.
Bingo. So anyway, those cigars speak for themselves.
There's nothing to be
I mean,
said.
you know what?
You can't describe them.
No, because you really can't. Because it's like, for me, it's eating a meat pie surprise. You know what I mean? It's like the meat is really good, and then all the different flavors you get out of that are just boom. You know what I mean?
Don't look to your right.
I'm not.
I mean, your left.
I have my spider senses going, and I'm not going to do it.
Don't do it.
Wouldn't be prudent.
Nope.
So.
No.
Anyway, Viva La Vida cigars. If you haven't tried them, man, and here's the thing. Man. Here's the thing, though. The number one thing I hear from people is, man, I want to smoke it, but I can't find it. So go to your shop and tell them that you want it.
Yes.
And until then, call the Leaf.
Call the Leaf.
Call the Leaf. Jay has them, and he will ship them to you ASAP with Boveda packs.
Yes, sr.
And he's quick. He's fast.
He's quick and fast.
He's like Superman. So anyway, we want to say thank you to Jay at the Leaf. He's one of our other sponsors.
Yes.
They will ship out cigars quicker than Speedy Gonzalez can say Ariba.
If you're ever in the area, just hit up 1166 North 2nd.
That's right. Yeah, and most of the time we'll be there.
Yeah, true. You catch one of us or all three of us at one time.
Yeah. So anyway, give them a call. And McAuliffe Cigars, dude, everything that they've done, they've got great cigars, 4 to 42, 4 to 42, and they've got a profile for everyone. I mean, if you can't find a stick with them, you're not a cigar smoker.
No, you're not. You left cigarettes thinking,
yes.
I don't know. They have one for everyone, from a neophyte to a Churchill type guy.
Yeah, everything in between.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And you know what I haven't had in a while that I'm going to have soon? The Reserva.
Ooh.
Have you had one in a while?
Not in a while.
We should get one and smoke it on the show next week.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
I'm going to grab one.
Because that's a stick. That's a stick, man.
I like how you put that. That's a stick.
There ain't no way around it. That's a stick. So anyway, guys, look in the show notes and you become a McAuliffe ambassador. You'll get your own challenge coin with your own personal number on it. You can become part of the community over there at the Facebook McAuliffe ambassador private group.
Yes.
And you can talk to Bill White. I mean, that dude's always doing something.
Always.
And so go by and check them out. Talk to your local brick and mortar. If they don't have them, let them know. Hey, man, bring in McAuliffe, bring in Viva La Vida.
Yes, sir.
And I promise you,
you will not be sad.
You'll be so happy that you have access.
Yes.
So anyway,
see why we talk like it.
Yeah. Hey, man, so coming up here shortly, like I said, we got Robert Caldwell. It's going to be on the show. Great interview. One of my favorite interviews of all times. It really was. He's a very interesting guy. I'll put it that way. Good. Hey, so before we get to the interview, though, let's do our weekly Pick Six.
I have no problem with it.
All right, I'm going to let you go first.
Starting off. I was given a present at my birthday. And you know how...
At my birthday?
At my birthday.
The
Oscar Valladares.
Oh, yeah. And you loved it. I was with you, and you were telling me that you took everything back that you had said before about the Oscar.
Yes.
Because I had tried to tell you before about the Oscar, and you just weren't buying
I wasn't hearing it. I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't hearing it, but this stick here, it reaffirmed Oscar, and I was like, okay, I stand accused. I was wrong. My next one was one of my gifts from my wife. It was Herrera Esteli by Drew Estates, the Miami.
Oh, the Miami.
Yes.
Never even heard of it.
Black tobacco.
Really?
Oh, when I say smooth, a little bit of peppery, but it hit a floral in there. And I was like, where'd that come from? Man, this was a bad stick. I was like, I like that.
I've never even seen it.
They're there at the Leaf because that's where she got it from, at the Leaf.
I'm going to tell you something.
What's that?
When I walk through the humidor, when I get to the Drew Estate section, I go blind. And then when I get past the Drew Estate section, my eyesight comes back on.
See, you go from Saul to Paul.
Yeah.
I can see.
You know what? And it's weird because I know they got some good sticks. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it is, but ever since when I was a very young cigar smoker, a buddy of mine, and you got to imagine at this time of my cigar smoking career, I was smoking full-blown pepper spice bombs.
Gotcha.
Stick after stick after stick.
Gotcha.
And he had me try a blondie.
Yeah. I can understand that.
Dude, that was a traumatic experience. Going from what I smoke to a blondie was an insult, a kick in the balls. I mean, I felt uncomfortable.
It was the ice challenge.
Yes. And so, anyway,
shock to the system.
I had bought like 3 or 4 of these because he's telling me how good they are. And so I was like, "Hey, man, you can have these."
Oh wow.
It's like,
so let me get to my last one.
I'm not going to smoke any of those.
My last one was also a gift at my birthday party. It was Viva La Vida Jester.
I saw you smoking that. That Jester is something.
I love 500s, but that Jester is right there.
Yeah,
it's
it really
right
is.
There. It's right there.
It is. In fact, somebody asked me the other day, I was chatting with them, and they said, "What would you recommend?" And I said, the Jester or the Club 500.
Oh, yes.
You
great can't go wrong.
And that's a completely different experience.
Yeah. Completely different experiences, but you will not go wrong.
Right.
You won't.
No. So anyway, hey, here's my top 3.
Talk to me.
I had really good 3. So anyway,
said I had.
So I was at the Leaf, and I had got in, and I'd picked up a Yellow Rose, picked up a Buckeye, and picked up this smoke here I'll talk about in a minute. And I forgot what I had to do, but I had to leave. And so as I was getting up to leave, I was turning, and as I looked over here, I saw these 5-packs.
Oh.
And I was like,
I was trying to hide.
"Are those the Alec Bradley Fine and Rares?" And Jay was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Yeah, give me one of those." And I was like, "I didn't know where you've been keeping these." So anyway,
I kept my mouth shut too.
I smoked the 2014.
Yes, sir.
Fine and Rare from Alec Bradley. And dude, that cigar, you know what I said yesterday when I was about 3/4 of the way through?
Talk to me.
All cigars should be this good. All cigars should be this enjoyable.
That's why they're named Fine and Rare, baby.
Yeah, it was really impressive. Yes. And then the number 2 cigar is the one I'm smoking this week, right now. And I haven't had the Almafuerte from Plasencia for a while.
Gotcha.
And you see how much I've been enjoying this stick. I wasn't going to
noticeable.
This was not going to be on my list this week, but after I've smoked it, it's like, dude,
it knocked somebody out.
The quality that they've
Most
done on
definitely.
that oily wrapper, it is
good.
nice.
It's good.
Anyway, number 3 is, not last Friday, but the Friday before, I did the Fuente Friday.
Yeah.
And I went and bought like a bag of 5 or 6. Anyway, yesterday, I smoked the Eye of the Shark.
Oh.
And it's not on my list. It's not on my list.
So he throwing in honorable mentions on me again.
No, it's not an honorable mention. I'm telling you why it didn't make the list.
Why?
Because it completely fell apart on me. The wrapper came off. I finished the last half of the Eye of the Shark with no wrapper, just the binder.
Wow.
And, that's one of the things is it's like, dude, Eye of the Shark? Come on, man. Manufacturers got to do a better job than that. You know what I mean?
Oh man, that's a terrible situation, especially when it's something that's good,
right?
And you have this perception, okay, I know what I'm going to get, then it explodes on you. You're
exactly.
Like, what the? Who's playing a joke? But it's not a joke, and you didn't waste it. You smoked it without the wrapper.
Exactly.
Hey, bro. Usually you'd have threw that sucker out if it was something else, though.
So the third cigar
talk to us
that made it was the Yellow Rose. Have you smoked it?
Yes. I can't say you went wrong with it.
I had never smoked the Yellow Rose. Are you aware that the Buckeye and the Yellow Rose, they're all the same blend, but completely different because of the Vitola?
Yes.
So it was like, dude, that was a good, and it's a box press torpedo, fantastic stick. So anyway, that's my 3.
You got a good 3.
Yeah.
You had a good 3.
And Arturo, you got to do better. So anyway,
I have the Shark.
I'm disappointed. That's all.
Because we can see it on your face.
That's see
it on your face.
That's a premier cigar for them.
For it to explode on you.
Yeah.
Lose its wrapper.
That was sad. So anyway, hey guys, we got Robert Caldwell coming up next. Great interview. You're not going to want to miss, but we'll be right back after a short break. No introduction required, but this is Robert Caldwell. We want to say thank you for coming on Cigar Talk and hanging out with us for a few and letting people get to know you a little bit better.
My pleasure.
Badass cigars. I'm a big fan. I've been a big fan for a long time. But anyway, I'm not going to be a fanboy on you. I just like your cigars, man.
Well, I appreciate it.
Hey, yeah. So anyway, I would like to dive back into your pre-cigar life. Like, I know you got into cigars pretty early, or in your mid-20s. Is that about right?
As a smoker or like as a business guy?
Well, as a smoker, when did you get started?
10.
10. Wow.
Yeah. So actually 12. At 10, I had my first premium cigar at 12 years old.
You remember what it was?
And like well, let's say that I crossed the gap, like I bridged the gap. So before, like when I was like 10 or 11, I would smoke like Phillies and Swishers and shit.
Okay.
I was a really bad kid. And then the first premium cigar I had was a brand called Bering, Bering, which was like a drugstore long filler cigar.
Okay.
That you could fit in your pocket very easily because they used to not have them behind the counter. And I remember when I smoked that cigar, I remember the difference actually because I'd been smoking like Phillies and Swishers and stuff. And then, but like, or Tampa, have a Tampa, like the wood tip things. So anyways, when I smoked the first premium cigar, I remember I was in a tree in my backyard, a grapefruit tree. And, I was just like, what the fuck?
Knocked you
and
on
it was
your
really
ass?
Cool. Not really. It was a light cigar. It was a real light cigar. And I'd been smoking a little bit before that, like of the, other stuff. Now, mind you, I'm 6'6", and when I was 12, I was 6'2", and I looked kind of old. Yeah, so it wasn't that weird because soon thereafter I'd go and buy them, and people would sell them to me because I looked much older.
What looked weird was a 6'2" kid in a tree. You know what I mean? Because they're like, what's that teenager doing?
Absolutely.
So that's cool, man. So what drew you into smoking cigars? I mean, at 10, 12 years old, I mean, was it just like the cool thing to do?
No. I was like, anything that I could do that was bad.
Not supposed to, if it was something you were supposed to be doing.
Off limits, I did it. So like, I mean, that's, that whole spectrum of shit you don't do, particularly when you're younger, I guess, what I was very attracted to. So, it's like, you can't do that. Then I would do it twice. I was that type of person.
So how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 38.
Okay. So see, you were bad when kids weren't supposed to be bad. And
Exactly.
I say that because I am 52 and we were bad kids, but it was in the 70s and all kids were bad in the 70s, or at least all the ones I knew.
Mm-hmm.
But in the, what you grew up with, if you're 38, you're in the the late
I was,
80s.
born 80. Yeah, exactly.
So
that
was a different time.
It was a different time. Miami was weird then too, because Miami was like kind of a rough, I guess still kind of a rough city, but it was a rough city back then. And there was a lot of bad kids. You had a lot of kids, I guess with not much direction, because it was just a kind of rough town. And then you had a lot of kids whose parents like went to jail for shit, or it was weird. Because my friends were kind of bad too.
Yeah.
And I'm like a private school silver spoon kid. Like I
really?
grew up. Yeah, man. But I was like really bad. I got arrested 19 times.
Wow.
I was just a bad apple. So when in my early, I was the kid that you weren't allowed to hang out with. Like, is Robbie Caldwell going to be there? And then they'd be like, yeah. And then the parents would be like, you're not going. So I was that kid. And then, so in my early youth, you know, I just was very, very, not even rebellious. I guess I just didn't give a shit. And then, you know, I didn't like the word no at all. And I think that drove me, like the rebellious nature that I have. And then also just being a dumb kid just drove me to want to do anything it was that I could potentially get in trouble for.
Right.
And then if I got caught, I didn't really care. And so, you know, it was like, I tried a cigarette, and then I tried like a beer, and then I tried a cigar, and then cigars, really, I enjoyed cigars very much. And then so cigars started out as kind of like a rebellious thing, or like something bad you could, like, what can you do with your friends that's bad?
Right.
We could find a gun and shoot it. We could, you know, smoke a cigarette, smoke weed, you know, drink, whatever. So a cigar kind of fit in that profile when you're young.
Right.
Because you're not allowed to. And then, so that being said, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, any of this shit. I still have a lot of guns, which I'm sure you guys like in Texas.
We do.
But, you know, cigar, I don't know. I fell in love with cigars. I think by the time I was like 15, I was taking it somewhat seriously, where you would go to a cigar shop, buy cigars, you know, kind of like pay attention to what I was smoking, collect the rings, enjoy them.
Wow.
And
So
then
you got started really early. I mean, at 15, that's very early, because the first couple of years, you're just a kid.
First couple of years
rebellious.
was fucking off.
Yeah, yeah.
And then by 14, 15, somewhere in there, what's that, 8th, 9th grade? Somewhere around there. That's when I started paying attention. And I started kind of like romanticizing as a consumer, I guess, the industry, how cigars are made, this type of thing. And I don't know. I carried that my whole life. And I never intended to be in the cigar industry. A lot of people don't know that, but I started a company in Miami to distribute cigars to restaurants and hotels, because I had a very bad experience as a consumer where I went out to a restaurant and I left my cigars in the car. It was a birthday. So I started ordering cigars off the menu. It was a nice restaurant called Smith & Wollensky. It's a fancy, you know, steakhouse thing. And then all their cigars were like dried out, or they had bugs, or they didn't know what the hell they had. They were overpriced. They were cracked. Everything wrong with these cigars. So I went to try to find, this is pre-smartphone, or maybe it was like beginning of smartphone, but I still didn't have one. So I went home and researched a company that would provide cigars to restaurants and hotels, and no such company existed. So I had a friend that was in a bad work environment. So he's a retailer, or a kid that worked for a retailer here in Miami. And then I kind of had like a light bulb moment where I couldn't find anything. And then so the next evening I went out to have a cigar, you know, have dinner somewhere. And then the manager of that place came by, offered me a ashtray. And then he's like, oh, that cigar smells nice. And I'm like, oh, thanks, whatever. And I noticed he was kind of the manager or somebody important. I'm like, oh, I have this company. We provide humidors to restaurants and hotels, and we write the menus, and we train the staff, and we do all this bullshit. And I didn't have it set up. He's like, oh, perfect. We have 12 restaurants. Can you set us up like on Monday?
Wow.
And I was like, yeah. So then actually I went to Mike's Cigars here in Bal Harbor, Florida, like kind of suburb of Miami. Bought a bunch of like quality imports or Cuban crafters, humidors, you know, bought the Romeos, the Cohibas, all that bullshit, filled up the humidors and went and dropped them off, and actually lost money, you know.
But it got you in the door.
Yeah, it got me in the door. I mean, I bought everything at full clip and then sold it like for less than I paid for it. But I mean, it got me in the door, and then that's kind of how I got started. And then, so from there, at the peak of that business, I had about 150 hotels that we were selling to, hotels and restaurants here in South Florida. And then we were selling in Los Angeles, California, Las Vegas, Chicago. So it kind of grew. And then, so from there, you didn't ask me, but I'm telling you.
Oh, no, I want to know.
So I became good friends with Christian Aroa via a failed trip that I had to Honduras. So I met Matt. I met Dylan, who's now the president of Davidoff, and then Christian, like at the same time, Matt being Matt Booth. And then Matt and I really hit it off. And then they invited me, you know, do you want to go wherever? Like I'd flown commercial, and then we flew back on a plane where all of them were on a plane together.
Very nice.
And then, you know, can we start doing business with you with the hotels? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, just sell me cigars, right? Real easy to do. And so Christian and I became very close friends. And then I ended up renting a warehouse in a neighborhood of Miami that at the time was the cheapest, most rough place you could go and rent a building. Neighborhood's called Wynwood, which now is like a, you know, really cool, trendy art community thing. And it was on its way. I saw the potential actually before I think anybody. I was the first or second person to rent in that neighborhood. Nobody was there. It was just run down, boarded up. And again, it was $10 per square foot annual rent, which for Miami,
yeah, that's
you
free.
don't beat that.
That's free.
So then Christian actually convinced me to convert that into a cigar factory with him. So then we turned that into a cigar factory, which was Wynwood Cigar Factory, which was only open for about 4 months because he and I did not get along. And then, you know, I canceled our little partnership, went back to drawing board, and then came out with Caldwell.
Okay.
And none of this shit. Well, I mean, the company that I started to sell cigars to hotels and restaurants, I started for a friend of mine. Like he was supposed to run it. And then I was just going to like start it. And then he ended up not running it. So then I started doing it. And then before the deal with Christian, I had been offered on a couple opportunities to like have licensed brands built where I'd be like the face of the company. I'm like, no, thank you. I don't want to be the face of a company. I want to just do what the fuck I do. And the reason that I like that was because I just like to chill. You know, I like to smoke cigars, hang out, drink coffee. Like,
yeah,
I'm like a good life type of guy, except I don't drink and don't have anything nice, but I like to smoke cigars, you know, drink a cup of coffee, that type of thing. And then even when I built Caldwell, I mean, like, I didn't plan to be the face of this company either. So it just kind of happens, I guess.
Well, and I'll say this though, your face is not hardly anywhere associated with Robert Caldwell Cigars. I mean,
that's very good.
Is that intentional?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And actually, we didn't put the name Caldwell on any of the labels or boxes for the first 3 years.
Well, I am a big fan of your cigars, and I noticed I've never seen pictures of you before. So I was like, this guy's not front and center raking in glory. He must be sitting back smoking cigars.
That's the ambition.
Hey, well, so far you're pulling it off pretty good.
Thank you.
How long have you been doing it now? I mean, Caldwell Cigars.
This company's 7 years. I think we're turning either 7 or 8, like right about now.
Okay.
It might be our 8th anniversary. I think it's our 8th.
So I also know that you worked a little bit with Drew Estate, with Jonathan. How did all that shake out?
That was interesting. So Jonathan came to visit when I had that cigar factory in Wynwood, which, you know, for anybody who's watching this and you haven't seen how that place looked, Google Wynwood Cigar Factory. It's amazing. It's a girl walking over with a box that's too heavy for her, but she's got it. She's almost here. She just threw that shit on the fucking ground. Hernando, there's somebody here with a box. No, they're going next door. So he approached me, I guess 6 months into starting Caldwell, and kind of like, you know, we had a strange conversation where he kind of talked to me and then he's like, do you know what I'm saying? I was like, I had no idea what this guy's saying. Cause he's like, you know, I see what you do. I watch what you do. I've been studying what you do. Do you get my drift? And I'm like, no. Then he's like, you know, and then he came over at the trade show That was on the way to the trade show. Then he came over to the trade show, talked to me at the trade show. Then he's, so many people like seeing what we were doing. Like people were kind of like watching him because he came to my booth and he doesn't leave his booth. And then I came back to Miami. He came back to Miami and then he's like, let's, set up a meeting sometime. So then I went to dinner with him and then he said, I want to do something with you. Do you want to do something? I'm like, yeah, I want to do something. He said, well, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. So I didn't know what he meant. I didn't know what he meant. He wanted to make cigars for me, with me, or distribute for me, or write me a fucking check.
And being Jonathan, did you was it like, we're both cigar makers here, or was it this dude is like a pinnacle of cigar makers? I mean, how was the relationship dynamic up until that point?
There hadn't been one. So I'm not an industry guy. So like I knew who he was, I knew what he did. I knew how relevant he was, but I didn't really have like a take on him and I didn't really have an opinion. And still to this day, I don't know a lot of people. And the conversations in Vegas, we had a lot in common. So like he's an avid art collector. I'm an art collector, also enthusiast. Like we both like a lot of the same shit. So like in terms of being on the same plane with a lot of things, I think that we had a lot of commonalities where we were cut from the same cloth maybe intellectually a little bit. And, I'm like a fuck it guy and he's a fuck it guy too. Like it's like, whatever, to a lot of things, like I don't take many things seriously. But then when it came to the business conversations, I didn't know because I know you don't get that successful without being, a pretty good businessman. And, so I wasn't quite sure, I guess, what to think of the conversations. And then so like, then he ended up selling that business. And then I thought whatever conversations were started had naturally have to kind of like not go anywhere. And then as soon as they closed the deal, I guess with Swisher, he called me again. He's like, I want to do something with you. I'm like, okay. And then we went to dinner again. And then he said he had this idea for like this 3-way collaboration with Willie Herrera to do a cigar and this, that, and the other. So then that was cool. And then I got very excited about that because we were making cigars in Dominican Republic, kind of like for our consumers, but based on my palate. And so that was an opportunity to make a cigar in a different way, different country, different, methodology, flavor profile, different level of expertise, working with people who know what they're doing there. Because when you work with tobacco in Dominican Republic, you work with tobacco in Nicaragua, it's two very different things. Okay. And I always like to say, if I'm a French chef, I cook in a French kitchen with French ingredients. He's an Italian chef cooking in an Italian kitchen with Italian ingredients. So you may not be able to know your way around the kitchen that well, which is 100% the way that it is when you go and you start working with other material in other countries and that also have different processes and stuff. So that was very cool. So I worked with Willie very closely on that project. And then, that's where we came out with All Out Kings concept. And that was cool because it was a huge learning curve. Because the name Master Blender or blenders, I think thrown around very loosely. And then guys always to me, they're like, oh, the Master Blender, Robert Caldwell or Blender. I'm like, I'm a fucking cigar company owner, man. I'm not a blender. So that being said, like, are you a chef?
Me,
That's a question to you.
No.
But you're from fucking Texas. I bet you know how to make brisket.
No, you know what? I have a Discord server where a bunch of the cigar guys hang out and talk and shoot shit. And they wanted a room that they could post pictures of all the stuff they cook. And I've got guys from Nebraska, Texas, California, and they're all posting these badass meals they cook on the grill. And I'm like, man, I can eat it like a motherfucker, but
you can't cook it.
I don't have the patience for it. And it's like, you know what? I would rather sit back and drink some bourbon and smoke cigars and let someone else do the cooking. So I've done it. I don't enjoy it. I love to eat it.
Well, you kind of ruined my analogy then. So I'll use these guys instead. So these guys that post all those pictures, some of them might be chefs, but a lot of them just have so much practice at doing what they do that they do it damn well.
Oh, yeah.
And I like to think of the cigar industry in the same way. So you have a lot of guys that get a lot of credit for being like master blenders. But then at the end of the day, they've just done something long enough where now they know what they're doing. And I think that's the category in which I fall, and a lot of people also fall. In terms of what's actually a cigar blender, I'm going to do this so I can like this. Cool. I don't like this sample I'm smoking. So, you know, when I got to Nicaragua, not being a master blender, but being a chef or being a home taught chef that kind of figured out what he was doing tobacco wise in DR, everything was immediately new to me. And my factory in Miami had worked with a lot of Honduran tobacco, and then DR had been Dominican tobacco, and then also tobacco, of course, from like Ecuador, Indonesia, stuff like that. But the Nicaraguan tobaccos we were working with in DR were much lighter than what I found going to work with Drew Estate. So that was a huge learning curve. And I was completely out of my element. And so that brand was very cool because it was kind of a wake up call for me in terms of the broad spectrum of flavor and opportunity that exists.
Yeah, because on the big spectrum, I mean, really, you're like, wow, I don't know shit.
Yeah. I don't know shit.
Because, I mean, it kind of reminds me of when I first started doing the show. I didn't know shit. But you learn as you go and you gain experience. And that experience, like you say, even though the word master blender, I mean, really, isn't that someone that just has so much experience, they automatically know what to do with what they have?
Mm-hmm. But that pedigree comes with years and years and years
time.
And science and education. So I always like to shy away from that because, I mean, like if you put me in a factory in DR, I can make a damn good cigar using the material that I work with. Just like a guy who makes a fucking badass brisket can probably make really good ribs, really good barbecue chicken, you know, like that type of thing. But you take that same guy and you stick him in an Italian kitchen with Italian ingredients and you say, make me a pasta. Right. That pasta might end up tasting a little bit like a barbecue sandwich because that's what they do, right? And so I think the same correlations there. Like when I work with Nicaraguan tobacco and Dominican Republic, it's a certain profile of flavor on the tobacco that I work with where I'm going to give you a pasta that tastes kind of like a brisket.
Gotcha.
So it might be really a pasta, but it kind of tastes like a brisket. So that was the exciting and the fun thing of working in Nicaragua with Willie, because he and I have similar enjoyment of cigars, but we have very different methodologies when it comes to blending and producing cigars. So that curve was really cool. So yeah, so we ended up doing, to answer your 45-minute answer to a quick question.
So my question though, after hearing that is, when you go back to the DR, do you take some of the new experiences from Nicaragua and take them back to the DR, and do they work?
I did, absolutely. And then, so that's like where the Long Live the King Mad Mofo came from.
Oh, okay.
So I started working with heavier tobaccos, working with Willie, and then also working with AJ. And then that's where Mofo came from. That was kind of like that education translated and transmitted back down to DR. And then we produced the product that if you closed your eyes and smoked it, you don't know where it came from. Where I think everything that we made to that point was kind of identifiably Dominican.
Gotcha.
Maybe Long Live the King was a little bit outside of that spectrum, but I think the Mofo really hit, like kind of a different smoker. Whereas all of our products prior to then had been kind of like the same smoker. So somebody that smoked Eastern Standard smoked also King is Dead.
Yeah, and I love those lines. And I remember the first time I was in a shop that had the King version with AJ Fernandez, and I was just like, whoa, I didn't even know you worked with AJ. So that was like, I got to get some of those.
Yeah. And
so how did that come about, working with AJ Fernandez?
That's an even better one. So Matt Booth and I have been very good friends for, since that trip to Honduras, which was 10 or 12 years ago, whatever that was. And so Matt left the industry. He was, of course, with Room 101 with Davidoff distribution. And then he completely left for a year, but it was really like less than a year. And then in that less than a year period, he called me and he said, I feel like I kind of left unfinished business, if you will. And so he wanted to do a farewell project, which was going to be hit and run.
Okay.
So that was kind of like his grant, like, okay, I left, but here's a little something. And then so when we started working on Hit and Run, his juices started flowing again. So he was out for like 6 months, and that was kind of the hook, I think, that brought him back in. And then he started researching, stuff and, okay, what can I do? And he reached out to AJ Fernandez. And AJ and I have been friends since AJ had one table at the trade show.
Wow.
So, I mean, one table to like 9,000 tables.
Right.
And so Matt got in touch with AJ, and then I've been friendly with AJ. And then so we went down together, and then AJ kind of like suggested that we do this triple, three-way collaborative effort, which was the tea. And then, so on one of the subsequent trips that I went down, AJ had requested me to bring some of my cigars so that he could smoke them. And AJ likes medium plus full-bodied cigars, so a lot of my lighter stuff he didn't like. But then I guess he liked King is Dead and Long Live the King above everything else. And then on one of my trips when I came down, he gave me 2 cigars. And I said, what are these cigars? Sorry, not a text.
Oh, you're good.
And he's like, smoke them and tell me what you think. So then I smoked them. I'm like, man, those are great cigars. What are those? And he said, those are my interpretations of King is Dead and Long Live the King.
Wow.
So I'm like, that's cool. So he gave me a couple bundles. I enjoyed them over a year's time or something. And then he came back to me a year later and he's like, why don't we do something with that? And I was like, well, what do you want to do? And then he's like, I don't know, but let's keep it small. So I'm like, well, let's tell the story of what that cigar is. It's a gift from you to me. King is Dead and Long Live the King by AJ Fernandez. It's your interpretation of my brands. Like if you, maybe not using the same ingredients, right? But if you closed your eyes and you wanted to remanufacture that cigar in Nicaragua, how would you do it? How would you make it taste? How would you improve on it, or how would you change it? And that's what those 2 cigars are. So that was a really cool project. And I think a lot of people, those cigars sold very quickly. But I think people just looked at it as we were making a cigar in Nicaragua with AJ, but that's not what it was. That was AJ's interpretation of my brands. And he gave me those brands kind of like as a gift.
Wow.
Which of course, we commercialized and sold, but that was a really, really cool, project.
Oh, absolutely. So let me ask you this.
And it was a one-time production. We never made more. We did it just one time.
So if you had them, you enjoyed them and never again. So let me ask you this, going from the DR down to Nicaragua with the different palates between the 2 nations or countries, how did your palate change or evolve over that time? Because you were really into like medium cigars, I'm assuming.
Man, I realized how much I love my Dominican tobacco.
Nice. Well,
yeah, I'm a mild to medium guy, man.
See, I am too. And I used to be full-blown, full-bodied cigar, one after the next. And then when I started experimenting with Connecticut's and, medium sticks, I was like, wow, there's a whole world here that I've been missing out on. If I would have smoked one of your cigars back in my early days, I probably would have not liked it because I had not developed my palate to what I like. And so I even love a medium light stick up to a medium full stick, not full, but I mean, and I smoke fulls, on occasion, but it's got to be the right scenario. It depends on what I'm eating, what I'm drinking, but just my day-to-day sticks, man, I love medium and maybe a medium plus.
Yeah, me too. I don't know. Yeah, I just like, I like a ton of flavor, not a lot of spice, not a ton of nicotine. And also, like, I'm smoking samples right now. That's a Toro. But I'll smoke 40 by 5, 42 by 5, 46 by 6. For my enjoyment, I never smoke anything really above like a 48 ring gauge. And I take forever to smoke. Like I have a cigar right now. It's a 43 by 5. It takes me almost 2 hours to smoke that cigar.
No way. Wow. See, I've gone down in ring gauge too, because I was at one point at that 60 ring gauge, because that's what the cool guys smoke. But once I really got into the medium bodied cigars, I started smoking 46s to 50. That's my sweet spot.
Hey, close that door, Alejandro.
So tell me about your lost and found line that, very small I told you that I was smoking the Swollen Cock, and let me tell you, that was a great stick. And everybody has a good laugh at the name, but tell us about the Lost and Found edition, because, I mean, I think it was phenomenal.
Sure. So actually that company I started before Caldwell. So between working with Christian and Caldwell Cigars, I started Lost and Found. That was also completely by accident. Like I said, I like mild to medium cigars. So, and then I like to find shit that's really aged, because aged cigars to me are something very special. So whenever I'd go to somebody's factory, I kind of like look for the shit that had like the yellow paper in the aging room. So most of those bundles go into white paper if they're paper wrapped. And then over the course of time, they turn darker and darker yellow as the oil gets absorbed in the paper. So I'd kind of like look for goodies. And then some manufacturers that I work with and have worked with, there was things that they had that I liked that they'd stop making. And then I knew that they had some stuff there. So I'd always be like, hey, what happened to this cigar? And it's a really great way to get good shit, because you just say, oh man, I really love that cigar you used to make. And then when you leave the factory, like, they give you a bundle. So I did that with a manufacturer. And then I went to visit Tony Bellato, who owns La Barba, who's a friend of mine, who he had been manufacturing with me at the Winwood factory with Christian, or blending at least, manufacturing in Honduras. And he and his dad smoked these cigars. And they're like, what the fuck are those cigars? And I'm like, they gave me the cigars from the factory, just old cigars. And they're like, well, what do you mean? Like, how many are there? So we bought them. Not a lot of cigars, a couple thousand cigars. And then Jacqueline Sears, who worked for us as our head designer, and then actually went on to work for Drew Estate, and then now out of the industry, she came up with like these wacky concepts, which were pepper cream soda. There was one called One Night Stand, and there was one called Lost Reserve, which was a Lancero that was just fucking amazing. And that was 50 Lanceros, by the way. So there's only 50 of that cigar. Yeah. One Night Stand, I think, was like 500 cigars, and then Pepper Cream Soda was like 500 cigars. That was the like original batches that came in. So, I mean, really small quantity. And then when we launched Caldwell, Tony called me and he's like, man, like, people found out about these cigars. They bought all these cigars from me. So we started bringing in more stuff, like aged stuff for Lost and Found, and coming up with quirky ideas. So it was always kind of just a fun thing. And I'm a very creative person. So I like, if I'm not creating something, I'm bored as shit. So give me something. Give me something to edit, or give me a concept that I need to do, or I got to make a new blend card, or I got to make a guarantee, like whatever the fuck it is. If I can create something, I love to do it. And it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, like, my little sister has a CBD company. And then so I helped her like with all of her branding and marketing material. And to me, that's a hobby. I really enjoy it. So that became a good outlet for me to do that. And then over time, of course, you know, sales got more and more, and it turned into a kind of real thing. And then last year we pivoted very heavily into charity. So as it's always been a fun thing for me to do, and it's never been a serious business. Like, it was never a business that made money. It was always a business that was just for fun, where it was a creative outlet for me. You know, we made enough money to keep the wheels turning, of course, but it wasn't
your career.
No, it was just like a fun thing. And then there was never a plan behind it. It's never like we sat down and planned what we were going to do. It's just like, oh, fuck, I found some great cigars. Let's come up with cool branding, you know, get them out there, you know, that type of thing. And,
hello? See.
Yo.
Hey, you're
fucking
good.
People. Like, motherfucker, you're a foot away from me having a goddamn phone conversation. So anyways, my wife at the beginning of last year, or maybe the end of 2019, had an idea. She's like, why don't you try to grow that brand and then have that brand benefit charity? Where, you know, you kind of like give it maybe a little bit more of a push. And then since it's not a big deal to you, because my focus is Caldwell Cigar Company, the proceeds of that brand can benefit charity. Like, that's a good idea. So we started kind of building this plan of different charities that we wanted to work with, that we thought were underfunded or under advertised, under marketed, could use the extra money, or just was the right thing to do. And then coronavirus hit. And then so Lost and Found, like 2 weeks into coronavirus, I went and I was on a bike ride, and I went through an area, and there were a bunch of homeless people around, which actually normally are not in that area. or so I thought. And then I realized, yeah, maybe they're always there, but maybe there's so many people that you just don't realize
Gotcha.
that there's many homeless people. And then, so it was really impactful because it was all restaurant area. And then there's nobody there to give them like a half a burger or a leftover pizza. And they were like just there. And then I went home and then we got like granola bars and shit and came back and gave them what we had. And then that evening I don't have TVs, but I watched the news on my phone. So I'm watching like local news and there's like a mile long line of soup kitchens and there's no fucking rice. And, like there was this big issue with there wasn't enough food. So then we came out with a product called No Free Lunch, which was, a bundle that looked like a hamburger wrapping or a sandwich or whatever. And then we donated all the money. Actually to North Texas Food Bank, got a ton of money. And then also local, I don't remember who, I think Camilla's House or something here, which is a similar charity. And then that was very successful. And then we started doing more and more. So then by the end of that, we ended up, Chutes and Ladders, I think it's called, or Ladders and something. There was the 9/11 Foundation. We did, Toys for Tots. We gave away like thousands of toys. We did one for, Thanksgiving where we provided for every pack sold. We fed 5 people Thanksgiving dinner.
Wow.
We had one also for urban education, urban being city center, kind of like lower rent, lower income neighborhoods that don't have the same access to after school education or to equal opportunity education. And so that,
took on its own
inner
life.
city.
Yeah.
Yeah. Inner city. Fuck, man. Like you got 2 parents that work 4 jobs.
Right.
Who the fuck's going to talk to those kids after school? So then there's programs actually to benefit, in terms of education in those parts of certain cities. So we started doing that. And then, we got involved with another charity out of California, which provides after school artistic and intellectual education to inner city of Los Angeles. So you have all the film, and creative community out there that donate their time. So they teach kids how to use cameras, how to write scripts, how to act, how to do all this stuff as kind of extracurricular stuff. And then so the charity provides like a location for them to do it. There's people there. They get all the materials. So we started working with that charity. So a lot of really cool charities. And then by the end of last year, I don't know what the number is, and I don't like to talk numbers when it comes to those things, but I know we fed well over 100,000 people, provided education to like tens of thousands of families, huge impact with 9/11 Foundation. So we did a lot of good with that product, and we continue to. So right now we have another one that's coming out that's going to Camila's house locally. We're going to do one also that's very cool. I don't know when. I just found out about these guys the other day, but you got a lot of homeless people that have dogs.
Yeah.
So imagine the only thing you have in your life is a dog. That's it.
Yeah, man.
And then so you go to a shelter and you got something wrong with you and you need to see a doctor or you need a shower. What happens to your dog? So these guys tie their dogs to like a fucking tree, but they won't do it because that's all they have. So they never go in. So there's a charity that started here in South Florida that when the person that needs help goes into the shelter, they take the dog, they wash the dog, they groom the dog, they feed the dog, they give it, if it needs shots or if it has worms, they treat the dogs. And then they put the dogs into like a doggy daycare system where the person can feel comfortable leaving the animal. And then the animal gets the treatment that it needs while the person gets the treatment it needs. And then they come back and they take their dog and then they continue on. So that's super cool. So we're going to do that one later this year. But that thing took on a life of its own. And the impact, I think, of that brand, hopefully, when I die, it'd be amazing if that thing continued and it was just a machine that continued to just produce for these things, which is, I think, a very cool thing. So that's actually going to probably turn into the thing that I'll be most proud of in my life is, I think, building that once it gets to where it should go.
That's very cool.
And the cigars are fucking good.
Oh, yes, I attest to that. So let me ask you this, like when you were younger, I mean, speaking of the kids, you were what you said in your own words, a bad apple. I'm not saying that, but so does that give you even more inspiration to help these kids who don't have a shot? You know what I mean? And I mean,
100%.
It's not that they don't have a shot, but they don't have the same, resources to what we had growing up. And so, I mean,
100%.
That's awesome, man. That's real awesome.
Yeah. And actually, to take that a step further. So, I mean, I'm a recovering drug addict also. I've going on 20 years, I think, right now. And luckily, again, I had resources to where I needed to go to rehab. I got sent to rehab, this, that, and the other, multiple times. I think I went 5 times or 6 times. But I was able to get the treatment that I needed. And then I had drug problems that stemmed from real problems, right? So people don't go out and just say, I'm going to become a fucking junkie. There's something wrong with them. And then they're self-medicating. So there's a lot of people on the street that are that way too. So oftentimes it's like, oh, roll up the window, don't look at them, right? Or they're obviously a drug addict. It's like, yeah, but like they can't see a fucking psychiatrist, so they need that.
Right.
So I empathize on a very, very big scale with anybody and everybody who's like down and out, because people aren't that way. Nobody says when they're little, I want to be a fucking junkie and live in the street. Right. There's shit that happens in life. And, somebody like me, I can get into a lot of trouble. And then I had, my family could like send me off to rehab and bail me out. And, so that opportunity that I had in my life and my awareness of why I became who I became in terms of a bad person way, and then how I recovered from that life and then transitioned into this one, I never take for granted the opportunities that I had that allowed me to make that hard left. Most people don't have that.
Right.
So I'm very conscious of that fact. And so when I walk down the street, if there's a homeless person there and they're asking for money, I give them money every time. Because why the fuck not?
Yeah, I do too. You know what I personally see that's their job. They get up every day and they go do their job. And just because that's not the job that me and you do, it's still their job. Yeah. And the reason they got there, you don't know. You know what I mean? You don't know. Like you said earlier, nobody when they were 8 years old hoped to be panhandling on the side of the highway, but that's where they are now. And so, I mean, I have compassion for those people. Yeah. And look them in the fucking eyes, look them in the goddamn eyes. So I know you'll notice if you, cause I study this shit. So I'll see like a homeless guy. I'll give him like, whatever. And then I'll kind of watch people. People don't make eye contact with them. Right. Because they're afraid they're going to ask them for money. Right. I mean, and they think that if they don't look at them, that they're not really there. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't see them, so they don't exist. Mm-hmm. But, I don't know. There's a lot I think you can do. And by the way, like, I'm not that type of person. I'm very weird because, like, there's things about me that I guess by like definition of who I am don't make sense. And that's one of those things. Like I'm a very conscious person, I think, of those things. It's good to be because I'm like a super fucking asshole. I'm like a real asshole, but then shit like that. You're an asshole with a heart. I know this because that's me too. I'm an asshole with a heart. I love people, but I'm still an asshole. Mm-hmm. But it was funny because the other day, me and my wife were going somewhere. I don't remember where it was. And there was a homeless guy or panhandler on the side of the road. And I usually keep my console with, some cash because I normally don't carry cash with me, but I always keep some in my car so I can give it out. And I didn't have any cash. And I pulled up next to this guy and I pulled out a couple of really good cigars. And I was like, hey, man, I'm sorry I don't have any cash, but if you like cigars, these are really good cigars. And dude, he lit up like a Christmas tree, like someone had given him $100 bill. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I was like, just enjoy them, brother. And so it was like, even though I couldn't help him financially, I was able to do something that made his day. Yeah. And that's actually a great point too, because being able to give away money is a luxury. A lot of people don't have money to give. True. And that's actually where the argument for creating a business that could generate money to give comes from. And that's where the kind of like concept of that came from, because I can only give so much, right? But if I build something that's perpetual, it can continue to. But to your point of giving away something, it doesn't need to be a cigar. It doesn't need to be $1. It can be looking at them, right, saying hi. So humanizing people that are down and out. That, I mean, the other day
downtown Miami, and I had nothing on me. I didn't have, like, I fucking had nothing. And there was a lady, like, could have been my mother on the street. And she didn't ask for a dime. I walked by and I always look at people, and I looked at her and I smiled. Light was red. And I'm like, instead of just like, I looked at her again. I'm like, how's your day going? She's like, oh, it's pretty good. How's your day going? I'm going, it was good. Or what? I mean, how much you have nothing in common. So what can you really talk about at that point? But it was like 20 seconds. And then I went to walk and she said, hey. And I thought it was, hey, can I have $5? Right. And then I would have been apologetic and, I look like an asshole, but I don't have it. And she said, thank you. And I said, thank you. And then I just kept walking. And the thank you was, thank you for acknowledging me. Thank you for saying hi to me. And I think that's a huge thing too, is that, charity is one thing, but it's an entire different thing to just be aware. And then remember, like, people need much more than money. People need to be acknowledged. People need a smile. People need all that type of shit. And then I think, I don't know.
Well, that kind of circles back around to the cigar community. I mean, you could go to the shop and buy a cigar and go home and smoke it every day, but people go to the shop because they need interaction and that one-on-one, people interaction. And so people on the street need it too.
Yeah, 100%.
So cool, man. Hey, so let me ask you this. What do you got coming out that nobody knows about cigar-wise? I know the creative genius wheels turning in there's got shit that we don't know about.
We have, well, I'm not going to tell you what it is, but we're going to be doing through this year a quarterly releases, limited nature.
Nice.
So we have one actually rolling in a couple weeks that I haven't mentioned to anybody. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but towards the end of the month, we have a limited production release of one of our core brands. That's going to be super cool.
Okay.
Super cool.
Well, I'll be looking for it.
Yeah. And then we have, Anastasia, we had Anastasia, and then we had Anastasia like part 2. And then, so Anastasia part 3 is coming. So Anastasia, we ran out of about a year ago. And then we've been having a lot of demand for it. We were always going to add it back, but Anastasia, like when the tobacco's gone, it's gone. So the first one was 30,000 cigars. The next one was 100,000 cigars. This one's going to be about 100,000 cigars, 120. But then when they're gone, they're gone. So it's smaller batches of tobacco, making the best cigar we possibly can. And then when they're gone, they're gone. So the first one lasted about 2 years. The second one lasted about 2 years. This one will probably last maybe a year and a half. So we'll be reintroducing that, which will be a different blend, similar look, like same packaging, presentation, stuff like that. Different second color label. So that should be towards the end of the summer. And then we do have one additional core line extension. So we're going to be adding a Nicaraguan addition to one of our lines also.
Okay, cool. So let me ask you this. How do you ensure quality as you grow? Because I think a lot of cigar companies, as they've grown, have missed that mark. And I got to say, all the Caldwell cigars I have been spot on as far as construction quality goes. And if your cigar doesn't have good construction, I don't care how good the blend is, I'm not smoking it. You know what I mean? How do you guys maintain that level of quality of construction that you do?
Well, thank you for the compliment. It's been a learning curve, to tell you the truth. So when we started, we had outstanding quality out of the gates. And then we had actually some issues earlier on. So we had some cigars that were having an issue. And then we worked closely with the manufacturer that makes the most of our product, which is William Ventura and DR, to try to say, hey, okay, exactly that. Like, we're going to grow, but we need to make sure that we continue to have the same quality we have. And we were able to kind of iron out, I think, within the first year, those issues that we'd had, because we did have some issues. We just had cigars canoeing and burning down the middle here or there. And then so we were able to tighten up manufacturing from there. And then moving forward, as we expanded, we flexed into a much bigger company. We had all of our Caldwell stuff. We have, of course, all the La Barba stuff that we distribute and then manufacture in our facility. We took on Room 101. We had, of course, the collaborations with Room 101. You know, we had third-party manufacturing via Blind Man's Bluff, Connecticut, Blind Man's Bluff, Honduras, you know, All Out Kings, the tea, all this shit. So to keep our eye on the ball, we actually tightened up our portfolio a little bit. So some of those were limited editions and then some of them weren't. And then we kind of just drew back and just, you know, really like have reconfigured what we do as a company and given more attention, again, with wanting to maintain the quality that we've been able to deliver, because we realize if we go too broad, we can't.
Right.
So I had a conversation actually with somebody yesterday, and they said that one of the retailers had mentioned, oh, you know, does he care about Caldwell anymore? Because he's giving all this attention to Lost and Found. And I started laughing. I'm like, man, I find the fucking cigars. Jacqueline designs all the goddamn things. Like, I don't do shit.
Right. You're the treasure hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People send me shit or I find shit. I smoke it. I like it. I buy them all. You know, I send down packaging instructions via email. Jacqueline does all the design work. She orders the stickers and the labels from the factory. You know, somebody puts together a sales sheet and it gets done. I mean, I'm hands off pretty much with that project. But the illusion was, or the assumption was, you know, okay, we're posting a couple of pictures. God, they're dedicating their time. And I was like, well, that's an interesting thing. I do understand how that could be misinterpreted.
Yeah.
But then they said also, no, but the thing is Caldwell hadn't released anything in 2 years. And I was like, well, no shit. And I said, but here's what's happened over the last 2 years. Like, we've tightened up our portfolio, but at the same time, our sales have grown. So Eastern Standard King is dead, long live the king. We've increased production and we've increased everything dramatically over the last 2 years. But that was also planned, because when we started with those brands, we had ceilings as to what we could manufacture. And then we had to start growing horizontally because there was only so much wrapper for Eastern Standard. There was only, like, all those were capped in terms of production capabilities. But then they also started growing more of some of the tobaccos that we use that are more unique, to where we knew we were going to have the opportunity to make more cigars in the future. So seeing that was coming 2 years ago, we started tightening up our portfolio and eliminating some of the things that distracted us, and also some of our footprint of our core lines, and making it more narrow, anticipating that last year, 2020, thank God we did well last year, because it could have been a very bad year, because we had all this extra tobacco we purchased, knowing that we were going to be able to ramp production. But it was just that. It's like tighten it up, and then you're selling more vertically and less horizontally, because we started to eliminate and tighten up our portfolio. So it's been really like kind of like a give and take, like, you know, little adjustments as we go in terms of what we sell, when we sell, how we sell, who we work with, you know, what the factories are doing, this type of thing, to try to maintain the quality of the brand. So if you took, like, you know, our sales were like this, you know, wide, now you take it and you turn it like this.
Gotcha.
So it's additional volume, greater sales, but on a much more narrow spectrum of total goods that we make.
Yeah.
And then now that we've gotten that done very well, now it's time to add to that portfolio and pick up some of what we lost. So, you know, the tea, we actually kicked that out as a licensed brand. So that's with a third party now. But we had AOK, we had the AJ products. Those all did really well. But then we did Blind Man, we did, Blind Man Maduro. And then we did the Mofo, which are fuller bodied selections that we make. So now we plan to add to that.
Okay.
And continue to make fuller body to replace some of the partnership brands that we'd had prior. So all of it was like kind of a scientific, mapped out concept, but we have to make sure, and again, thank you for your compliment, that as we grow vertically, we maintain the quality of what we're doing, but we can't grow vertically and horizontally at the same time.
Right.
So vertically, then move a little horizontally, then vertically again, then move a little horizontally. Because I think that when we were very, very horizontal, we had
too many fingers in the pie.
Too many, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we saw the writing on the wall where, okay, we need to tighten this up if we're going to continue to grow with our core brands.
That's good, because I think a lot of companies miss that, and they try to go too horizontal, too many, facings. And the next thing you know, you've got issues with different facings because there's too many people involved. But I think that's exactly the way you got to do it. And not that I am any guy that knows how to do things, but it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So I got one last question before I let you go. and I don't know the answer to this, so I'm going to ask you, and then I'm going to ask you a follow-up question, has Caldwell Cigars ever been in the top 25 of Cigar Aficionado?
One time.
One time. And which cigar was it?
King is Dead Torpedo.
And what was the ranking?
I think we were 19.
19. My follow-up question is, do you even give a shit about rankings?
I don't give a shit, but here's the funny thing. We've only been in top 25 one time, but I think we've gotten like 11 or 12 90-plus ratings. We've got 94s. We've got 95s. But we've only one time appeared in top 25, which is very weird. Because right. If you look at the top 25, a lot of those guys got 93, 94 ratings. And I know that they re-rate them at the end of the year, like in a
room
thing, but it's fucking weird because we'll get like a 95 and we're like, we're going to be top 25 for sure. And then it's like, no.
Yeah.
So we don't really give a shit. And we never advertise any of our ratings either. But I mean, I think we've only had one time where a cigar didn't rate 90 plus. We got an 88 one time on one cigar. And then we have like 2 or 3 90s, like 2 or 3 91s. We have like 3 92s, a couple 93s, and a couple 94s. So we've gotten a lot of really good ratings. We just don't advertise them.
Hey, you know what? Well, I'm not going to go down that road. But anyway, man, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with us. We've got a lot of cigar fans that love your cigars. We talk about them all the time. And I've been telling people for weeks that we're going to get you on. I know you're busy as can be. So thanks for taking the time to hang out with us for a little bit.
My pleasure. Yeah, sorry it took so long to get on. I was like, I don't remember what it was. I went to DR and then I had something else and then shit just came like this. So.
Hey, not a problem, man. We're excited you came on. We're a big fan of what you make. The King is Dead. Love that. Blind Man's Bluff and the Swollen Cock. Man, I love that Swollen Cock.
Thank you.
Hey, no problem, man. Hey,
by the way, last thing I'm going to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
We got pepper cream soda San Andres coming.
Oh, I'm a sucker for San Andreas.
Wait till you try this fucking cigar, man. I smoked 25 of them over the course of 8 days or 10 days. But that was it. It was wild. Like I'd be at my office, I'm smoking a cigar, finish the cigar. I go home. The whole time I'm driving home, I'm thinking about lighting the next one.
Nice.
And then the minute I get out of because I don't smoke in my car, the minute I get out of the car, I'd light another one. Where do you try that cigar?
Hey, wait a minute.
Pepper cream soda San Andres.
What do you mean you don't smoke in your car?
So my car is actually my wife's car. I don't have a car.
Okay, fair enough.
So I had a car that I smoked in. And then when coronavirus hit, I got my wife a car. She got a car. Great deal. And then I had old cars. I had 2 in 1998 and a 1990 Suburbans that were badass, lifted, badass. And then my wife had a Stingray, an old, like a sick, perfect Stingray. But I bought a house that needed work. So I'd be like, the love of old cars. It's like you work, your house has got shit going on. You come out and the fucking thing doesn't turn over. Right. So then I said, fuck it. So I sold all the old cars. And then, you can't be renovating an old house and then like fucking with old cars at the same, just like too much. So I got rid of all the cars and then I was going to buy another one, but then the used car market went crazy. So everything went up like 10 grand. So I'm such a cheap fucker that I'm like, nope, not until they come back down. So she has a car, which I drive.
And you can't smoke in.
I'm not allowed to smoke in that car.
Hey, I understand. I have this thing where you're not a real dedicated cigar smoker unless you smoke in your car. But
agreed.
That being said, I can't smoke in my wife's car either.
There you go.
So, well, awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I enjoyed it, man. And we hope to talk to you again, brother.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed that interview with Robert Caldwell. That was a blast, dude. He is just, like I said, one of my favorite interviews of all time. And anyway, I'm wanting to try to set up a conversation with him about something a little bit later, and I'll be spreading some news about that hopefully soon. One way or the other. One way or the other.
You're gonna talk about
one way or
this or another.
Yeah, that doesn't match up.
Nope, not at all.
So anyway, What's been going on with you this last week?
Hey, the party.
And you turned a year older.
Yeah, thankful.
What does that do for you?
Nothing. I woke up. That's the way I look at it, man. I was just like,
dude, when I hit 52, it was like a rock just landed on top of my head. And you know what? It's like 51 wasn't nothing. 52, it's like, who is standing on my back? Why is someone shoving me in the dirt?
nah, man, it's the same. You know,
But with that reality, I've come up with like some good policies.
What's that?
Well, like, you know what? I'm not going to fight you. I'm done with that.
That's a great policy.
You know, if it were to come to that, I'm going to have to shoot you.
Yes. 'Cause I'm not fighting
I'm
anymore.
too old. I don't want to get that tired.
No.
You remember how tired you would be after a fight?
And you were young. You could take it then. Now?
No.
Mm-mm.
You
Not
saw the video of me falling on my own. I don't want to be knocked to the pavement by someone's fist. You
And
know what
have
I mean?
to get back up.
Yeah. Or I'm going to
Quickly.
get my ass really handed to me.
So I got to get up quickly.
And then, there's no getting up quickly.
Oh, not at this age. baby.
Used to, you'd be laying on the floor and you could pop up without even using your arm.
Tell the truth.
And now it's like, my wife's like, why are you groaning?
Because it hurts to get up.
I'm like a bear.
Shoot, I was down for what, a week and a half trying to get up off the because we was on that air mattress. We went to visit my son. He got the new house. He didn't have a bed. Now we getting off the air mattress, and I'm like, knee just said, "Oh, we weren't engineered for this."
Right. We know air mattress.
We go forward and back, left and right.
Not so much.
Not happening. Man, I had to bring the cane back out.
You know what'd be funny is if they made a prosthetic leg that made you walk funny. You know what I mean? Like if it was angled,
would take you.
Hey,
it would take you to think of
if
something
it was
like that.
If it was angled one way,
it would take you to think of something like that. Why?
Just that's where my mind went.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No. Can't
Dun,
have you
dun, dun.
anywhere near medical technology.
True.
We think about that. Rob, no. Somebody else. Somebody else.
I mean, do some cool stuff though.
Like what?
Put one wheel or put one foot on roller skates. You know what I mean? That way you're 1.5 faster than you would be.
No.
Because you're walking with one foot, but you're really going fast with that other foot.
No, you sound like Kevin Hart with that dude that runner from South Africa. He called him Tink Tink.
Yeah, dude got his legs cut off, went
Tink
back
Tink.
racing.
Poor little Tink Tink. You got him on roller skates. Come on, man.
But just one foot.
So he worked part-time at Sonic.
Yeah.
Only have one leg. This got roller skates. I can only work 4 hours.
But you got to pay me for 8.
It's for 8, but I only work 4. I'm handicapped. You are not right, dude. You are not right, man. It would take your mind to come up with something like that.
I think it would be fun.
Just like earlier, you was trying to figure out the name for that what you did to that album.
Yeah. So you guys know if you have the what? No. No, it's a cigar tip.
He said the producer's like, nope.
So we won't tell the name, but we're going to tell the tip. Okay, maybe we shouldn't. I may not be sober enough to pull that
Yeah,
off.
because there's no way you're going to navigate around that.
I've just got one word, and then I'll let it be.
Oh Lord.
Nipcision. You can figure it out. So anyway,
Goodness,
hey
man.
guys, that's going to wrap up this week's show. I hope you enjoyed the interview with Robert Caldwell.
Yes.
Try all of the Pick 6 this week.
Yes.
And if you're watching the YouTube video, smash the like button.
That old scout got you going, don't it?
So anyway, smash the like button and the subscribe button, and we'll be back next week. Take care.
Like Biden.
Something like that.
I got you, bro.
All right, brother. Take care.
Keep smoking.
Boom.